The moment their eyes met across the boardroom after 5 years, his world stopped. But nothing prepared him for when 3 children walked in calling her Mommy, and he saw his own blue eyes staring back at him from their light-tan faces. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. 5 years of meticulous planning had led to this moment. Maya Johnson's fingers traced the edge of her name placard. Maya Johnson, board president, still wrapped in plastic, waiting to be placed at the head of the mahogany table where Alexander Reed had reigned unchallenged for years. "Mommy, you look like a superhero." Maya turned from her reflection to find Sophia standing in the doorway of her bedroom, already dressed in her school uniform, hair neatly combed. "Thank you, baby." Maya knelt down, careful not to wrinkle her tailored charcoal suit. "But remember what we say about superheroes? They're not just strong," Sophia recited with practiced precision. "They're smart, and they always protect people who need help." "That's right." Maya brushed an invisible speck from her daughter's shoulder. "Is everyone ready for Grandma's pancakes?" "Noah's still organizing his dinosaurs by geological period," Sophia reported with the seriousness of a military briefing. "And Olivia says her hair isn't listening to her today." Maya smiled, picturing Olivia wrestling with her curls. "Tell them 5 minutes or the pancakes get cold. Even dinosaurs need breakfast." In the kitchen, Diane Washington flipped a perfectly golden pancake while humming softly. At 62, she moved with the same grace that had carried her through 30 years of teaching literature to reluctant teenagers. "You're going to shake that boardroom to its foundation," Diane said without turning around. Maya poured herself tea, the aroma of jasmine rising with the steam. "That's the plan." "And when you see him?" Diane's voice remained neutral, but her shoulders tensed slightly. "He'll be just another CEO answering to his board president." Maya's tone was practiced, perfect, too perfect. Diane turned, spatula in hand. "Maya Elizabeth Johnson, I've known you since before you drew breath. Save those rehearsed lines for your board members." Maya's carefully constructed expression cracked slightly. "I don't know, Mom. 5 years ago, he was everything. My boss, She glanced toward the hallway, lowering her voice. "My future, I thought. Then suddenly he was the man who fired me when I told him I was pregnant. Now he's going to be my subordinate." She took a steadying breath. "It's complicated. Life usually is." Diane set a plate of pancakes on the counter. "Just remember why you're doing this." "For them," Maya said, glancing toward the sound of small feet thundering down the hallway. "Always for them." Noah arrived first, clutching a book about velociraptors. His blue eyes, so like his father's, scanned the kitchen with methodical precision. "Grandma, did you know velociraptors were actually the size of turkeys, not like in the movies?" he asked, climbing onto a stool. "Is that so?" Diane placed a pancake on his plate. "Yes, scientific accuracy is important," Noah declared with conviction that belied his 5 years. Olivia tumbled in next, her caramel-colored curls partially tamed into a puffy ponytail. "Mommy, your hair looks like mine used to feel before you cut it. All tight inside." Maya touched her sleek bob self-consciously. "What do you mean, sweetie?" "Like it's holding its breath," Olivia explained, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Maya knelt to eye level with her daughter. "Maybe it is, a little. Today's a big day." "Because you're seeing the dragon?" Olivia whispered. Maya shot a questioning look at her mother. "We've been reading about knights and dragons," Diane explained with an apologetic shrug. "I may have used some metaphors." "He's not a dragon," Maya said firmly. "Just a man who runs a company where Mommy now has an important job." "A very important job," Sophia added, marching into the kitchen. "The most important job." Maya kissed each child's forehead before straightening up. "I need to go. Be good for Grandma." "We'll make a victory celebration for dinner," Diane promised, already wiping syrup from Noah's chin. The Quantum Innovations headquarters stretched 40 stories into the San Francisco sky, a monument to sustainable architecture and Alexander Reed's ambition. Maya's heels clicked confidently across the marble lobby as security guards nodded respectfully. The executive elevator whisked her to the top floor, where an assistant waited. "Ms. Johnson, the board is assembling. May I get you anything before the meeting?" "No, thank you, Melissa." Maya had memorized the names and faces of every key staff member. "I'm ready." She paused outside the boardroom doors, hearing the murmur of voices within. 5 years ago, she'd left this building in tears, clutching termination papers and the knowledge that she carried Alexander's children. Today, she returned not as a discarded employee, but as the woman who would determine his fate. The conversations ceased when Maya entered. 12 pairs of eyes turned to her, but she registered only one. Alexander Reed sat midway down the table, in the process of explaining something to the silver-haired man beside him. His sentence died unfinished as he looked up. Time compressed in that moment of recognition. Alexander's face, more angular than she remembered, his temples now distinguished with gray, registered shock, then something deeper that flashed across his features before disappearing behind a careful mask. Maya didn't falter. Her smile remained perfectly calibrated as she proceeded to the head of the table where the board chairman, Walter Simmons, waited to introduce her. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to formally introduce our new board president, Maya Johnson. Ms. Johnson brings exceptional expertise in sustainable tech financing and corporate governance. As you know, this position was created as part of our restructuring to ensure Quantum's continued growth." Maya shook Walter's hand and surveyed the room. "Thank you, Walter. I'm excited to help guide Quantum's next chapter. I've followed the company closely and believe strongly in its potential." Her eyes moved past Alexander as if he were just another face. "I look forward to working with each of you." The meeting proceeded with agenda items and reports. Maya asked incisive questions, demonstrating thorough knowledge of the company's operations. When Alexander presented the quarterly projections, his voice betrayed nothing, but Maya noticed the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his knuckles whitened around his tablet. After the meeting, board members approached to introduce themselves. Maya navigated the conversations with practiced ease until a familiar cologne registered seconds before Alexander's voice. "Ms. Johnson, welcome to Quantum." His tone was professionally cordial, carrying none of the intimacy they once shared. "Your reputation precedes you." Maya turned, meeting his blue eyes directly. "Mr. Reed, thank you for the welcome. Your quarterly numbers look promising, though I have questions about the R&D allocation. I'd be happy to discuss them, perhaps in my office." Minutes later, the door closed behind them in the corner office Maya had visited countless times before, first as an analyst, then as his lover. New art adorned the walls, but the view of the bay remained breathtaking. Maya. Her name sounded different when the boardroom facade dropped. "This is unexpected." "Is it?" She remained standing, though he gestured toward a chair. "You always said Quantum attracted the best talent." Alexander's expression shifted, less CEO and more the man she'd once known. "You know that's not what I meant. 5 years without a word and suddenly you're my board president? With considerable voting power, I'm told." "The consortium I represent saw potential in Quantum's fundamentals, despite some concerning governance issues." Her voice remained professional but carried an edge. "And the timing is purely coincidental?" He stepped closer, his height familiar and yet strange after so long. "Maya, what happened between us was business," she interrupted coolly. "Just as this is. I suggest we maintain a strictly professional relationship, Mr. Reed. The past is irrelevant to my position here." Something flickered behind his eyes. "Is it? Because from where I stand, this feels very personal." "That would be your perspective to manage." Maya moved toward the door. I'll need those R&D reports by Thursday. And Alexander? She paused, using his first name deliberately. I always deliver on my promises. Remember that. As she walked out, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Gabriella. How did the dragon slaying go? Maya allowed herself a small smile as she typed back, Dragons don't die easily, but they can be tamed. 5 years earlier, Maya's hand trembled slightly as she knocked on Alexander's office door. 3 pregnancy tests, all positive, lay hidden in her apartment bathroom trash. 2 weeks of nausea and fatigue had culminated in undeniable certainty. Come in, Alexander called, his voice warm in a way only she knew. He smiled when she entered, that private smile reserved for moments when they were almost alone. Almost, because at Quantum, they were never truly alone, their relationship hidden beneath layers of professional decorum. I was just thinking about you, he said, setting aside his tablet. The Singapore investors loved your sustainability metrics. Anderson's trying to take credit, of course, but I made it clear whose brilliant mind created the model. Maya didn't sit as expected. We need to talk, Alex. Something in her tone made his expression shift. He rose from his chair, coming around the desk but maintaining a careful distance, always conscious of the glass walls, the watching eyes of the corporate fishbowl. What's wrong? The Tokyo presentation? I can move some things around if you need more prep time. It's not about Tokyo. Maya took a steadying breath. It's about us. Alexander's posture stiffened. After 8 months of secret dinners, coded messages, and careful exits from each other's apartments before dawn, us remained a complicated topic. Maybe we should discuss this later, he suggested, glancing toward the bullpen beyond his office. Maya's voice caught. This can't wait. I'm pregnant. The words hung between them like a physical presence. Alexander's face went completely still, a stillness Maya had seen only during the most critical negotiations. That's impossible. We were careful. Apparently not careful enough. Her attempt at lightness fell flat. Alexander turned away, facing the floor-to-ceiling windows. San Francisco spread beneath them, oblivious to how Maya's world was balancing on the edge of a knife. How far along? His voice had changed, cooled by several degrees. About 8 weeks. And you're certain it's… Yes. Maya cut him off, the suggestion stinging more than she'd expected. There hasn't been anyone else. Alexander nodded once, a sharp, mechanical movement. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Janet, cancel my next appointment, and hold all calls. When the door closed, he turned back to her. Gone was her lover. In his place stood the CEO, calculating risks and liabilities. We need to be practical about this, he said. Practical, Maya repeated. I thought you might say that, but I also thought you might say something else first. What do you want me to say, Maya? That this is wonderful news? That I'm thrilled? We've never even discussed children. No, we haven't, but here we are. Alexander ran a hand through his dark hair. The board meeting is in 2 weeks. The Tokyo expansion hinges on their approval. This is literally the worst possible timing. I didn't exactly plan it, Maya said, heat rising in her voice. What do you want to do? He asked finally. The question carried weight beyond its simple words. Maya had rehearsed this conversation for days, imagining various scenarios. None had prepared her for the coldness in his eyes. I'm keeping it, she said firmly. Them, actually. The doctor says it's likely twins, possibly triplets. Something flashed across Alexander's face. Panic, perhaps. Maya, be reasonable. We're on the verge of the biggest expansion in Quantum's history. Your career is just taking off. Multiple babies would change everything. I know. She stepped closer. But it doesn't have to be catastrophic. We could figure it out. Together. Alexander's laugh was sharp, without humor. Together? You mean publicly acknowledge our relationship? Have you thought about what that would do to your reputation? To mine? The board would see it as a massive conflict of interest. So we're just going to keep pretending, even with children? I didn't say that. Alexander's voice hardened. I'm saying there are realities we can't ignore. The timing is impossible. My divorce was finalized barely a year ago. The press would have a field day with this. Maya felt something cold settling in her stomach. Your divorce has nothing to do with this. Is that what you're worried about? Your image? I'm worried about quantum, about the 500 people who depend on this company succeeding, about the years of work that could be jeopardized by a scandal. Our children would be a scandal? Maya's voice rose despite her efforts to control it. Alexander moved back behind his desk, a tactical retreat. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because it sounds like you're more concerned with shareholder perception than with me or these babies. Don't make this emotional, Maya. We need to think clearly. Emotional? The word struck like a slap. I'm carrying your children. How is that not emotional? Alexander's expression hardened further. This conversation isn't productive. You've obviously made your decision without considering all the implications. What implications, Alex? Tell me exactly what you're suggesting. He didn't answer immediately, instead opening a drawer and removing a folder. I've been meaning to discuss this with you. There's been concern about department redundancies. With the restructuring, Maya stared in disbelief. Are you firing me? Because I'm pregnant? This has nothing to do with your pregnancy, he said, not meeting her eyes. The decision was made last week. Your position is being eliminated. My position, Maya repeated numbly. The position that just saved the Singapore deal? The position that created the sustainability framework the entire Tokyo expansion is built on? Your contributions have been valuable, but don't. Maya held up a hand. Don't insult me with corporate doublespeak. Alexander slid the folder across the desk. There's a generous severance package. Healthcare extended for 6 months. A recommendation letter for your next position. Maya didn't touch the folder. I trusted you. Something flickered in Alexander's eyes. Regret, perhaps, quickly buried. This is business, Maya. It was always business. Not when you were in my bed. The words were quiet, but landed with precision. Not when you said you loved me. That was a mistake. One we're both paying for now. His voice was final, dismissive. I'll have security escort you to clear out your desk. Present day. He actually called security? Gabriella's voice carried through Maya's kitchen as she poured another glass of wine. That cold-blooded hijo de puta. Maya adjusted Olivia's blanket where she'd fallen asleep on the couch, the movie they'd been watching still playing quietly. The 3 children had fought sleep valiantly, excited by their mother's first day in her new position, but had finally surrendered. Security was just the beginning, Maya said, accepting the wine. The next day, his lawyers sent papers requiring me to sign an NDA about our relationship in exchange for an enhanced severance, which you told them to shove up his designer suit-wearing ass, I hope. Not in those exact words, but effectively, yes. Maya smiled, remembering her lawyer's face when she'd refused to sign. It's why I had to be so careful about approaching the board. If he could prove I'd violated confidentiality agreements. Gabriella settled beside her on the kitchen island. And seeing him today? How was that? Maya swirled her wine, considering. Different than I expected. 5 years of imagining someone as a monster, and then… He's just a man, Gabriella finished. A man who looks at my children without knowing they're his. Maya's voice caught. I saw him watching Noah during the video call to the London office. There was this moment where Noah tilted his head exactly the way Alexander does when he's processing information. Did he notice? I don't think so. Not yet. Maya sipped her wine. But he will. Alexander doesn't miss details, especially when they're staring him in the face with his own eyes. And when he figures it out? Maya looked toward her sleeping children, their faces peaceful in dreams, untroubled by corporate politics or parental complexities. That's when the real battle begins. The Evergreen Initiative is our flagship sustainability program, Alexander explained, his voice steady as he guided the board through sleek presentation slides. 3 years of implementation have positioned Quantum as an industry leader in green technology. Maya studied the quarterly metrics displayed on the boardroom screen, her expression neutral despite the recognition flickering through her mind. Evergreen, her brainchild, her framework, her passion project, had been transformed and expanded beyond her original vision. "Impressive results," she acknowledged when Alexander finished. "However, I notice the community impact assessments have been scaled back considerably from the original proposal." The slight tightening around Alexander's eyes was imperceptible to anyone who hadn't spent months learning his micro-expressions. "We found those assessments created unnecessary delays for minimal additional data." "Minimal to whom?" Maya tapped her tablet, sending documents to the board members' screens. Communities in the Santiago implementation reported significant disruption that could have been mitigated with proper assessment. The resulting legal challenges cost nearly $7 million. A ripple of concern passed through the room. Walter Simmons, the white-haired board chairman, leaned forward. "Was this included in the risk management report last quarter?" "It was categorized under regulatory compliance costs," Alexander replied smoothly. "As I was about to explain, we've implemented new protocols to address these concerns." "After the fact," Maya noted, "which brings me to my broader concern. The quarterly numbers look excellent on paper, but I'm seeing a pattern of short-term gains potentially undermining long-term sustainability, both environmental and financial." The boardroom temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Alexander's posture shifted subtly, the CEO squaring off against an unexpected challenge. "Quantum's 5-year performance metrics suggest otherwise," he countered, voice clipped. "We've doubled growth while reducing our carbon footprint by 32%. Using a baseline calculation model that was revised in 2022, Maya responded without missing a beat. "Under the original parameters, the reduction is closer to 17%. Still commendable, but not the industry-leading standard we claim in our marketing materials." For the next hour, they parried back and forth, Maya questioning decisions, Alexander defending strategies. The board members watched the exchange with growing interest, sensing the undercurrents beneath the professional debate. When the meeting adjourned, Walter approached Maya as she gathered her materials. "That was quite a first week, Ms. Johnson," he said, his weathered face creased with a knowing smile. "I believe you've set a record for most executive feathers ruffled in 5 days." "Only the ones that needed ruffling," Maya replied. "The Santiago situation concerns me." "It should." Walter glanced toward Alexander, who was speaking intently with 2 other board members. "Reed's brilliant, no question, but brilliance without oversight can lead to blind spots. That's why we created your position." After Walter departed, Maya felt Alexander's presence before she saw him. He approached with deliberate steps, waiting until they were alone in the boardroom. "You've done your homework," he said, closing the door. "Did you expect anything less?" "From the Maya Johnson I knew?" "Number." His gaze traveled briefly over her tailored navy suit, the sleek bob that framed her face so differently from the long hair she'd once worn. "Though I'm still determining exactly how much of her remains." Maya gathered her tablet and portfolio. "People change in 5 years, Alexander. Priorities shift." "Clearly." He moved to block her path to the door, not threateningly but with unmistakable intention. "What I can't determine is whether your objections today were about sound business practice or something else entirely. If you're suggesting I'm being unprofessional, I'm suggesting you're being personal," he interrupted. "The Santiago example? You could have raised that in private briefing. Instead, you chose to highlight it in front of the entire board." "The board should be fully informed," Maya countered, Transparency was always part of Evergreen's original vision, my original vision. Something shifted in Alexander's expression, a flicker of recognition, perhaps even regret. You're right, it was your vision, one that's generated considerable value for Quantum. The acknowledgement, unexpected and sincere, momentarily disarmed her. Is that what this is about, Maya? Credit for Evergreen? This is about accountability, she replied, regaining her footing. Quantum makes decisions that impact communities, environments, lives. Someone needs to ensure those decisions aren't solely driven by quarterly results. Alexander studied her, his blue eyes searching. And you appointed yourself to that role. The board appointed me, she corrected. Unanimously, as I recall. A sardonic smile touched his lips. After you orchestrated a masterful campaign with our investor consortium. Very impressive, by the way, I would have done the same. We're nothing alike, Maya said, the words emerging sharper than intended. Aren't we? He stepped closer, close enough that she could detect the faint scent of his cologne, still the same after all these years. Driven, strategic, willing to play the long game to achieve objectives. Maya held her ground. My objectives extend beyond personal gain or corporate metrics. To what then? The question hung between them, weighted with implications. For a moment, Maya considered telling him everything. The sleepless nights after her termination, the complicated pregnancy, the years of rebuilding her career while raising 3 children who shared his eyes, his determination, his stubborn intelligence. Instead, she said, to creating a future I can be proud of. Alexander's expression softened fractionally. That sounds like the Maya I knew. You never really knew me, she replied, the words quiet but firm. Just as I never really knew you until that day in your office. His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Fair? Maya's laugh held no humor. You want to talk about fair? Try building a career while caring for 3 children alone because their father decided they were an inconvenient business liability. The words escaped before she could contain them. Alexander's expression froze, a sudden stillness overtaking his features. Children? He repeated, the single word laden with dangerous curiosity. You have children? Maya recovered quickly, mentally cursing her lapse. Yes. That's generally what happens when someone is pregnant and chooses to keep the baby. Or babies, in my case. How old? The question was deceptively casual. That's not relevant to this discussion, Maya replied, moving toward the door. What is relevant is the Tokyo expansion proposal. I'll need the complete risk assessment, not the summary version, before Friday's meeting. Alexander didn't move from her path, but his attention had shifted, his mind visibly processing this new information. Of course. I'll have Melissa send it over. He paused. 3 children must keep you busy. Triplets usually do, Maya said, immediately regretting offering even this detail. If there's nothing else, I have a conference call in 10 minutes. Triplets, Alexander repeated, the word almost inaudible. Maya exited the boardroom, maintaining her composure until she reached her new office. Once inside, she leaned against the closed door, exhaling slowly. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gabriella. Emergency debrief needed. Drinks tonight? Maya typed back, can't. Kids have school performance. The response came immediately. Tomorrow then. Also, Reed's been asking HR about parental leave policies. Coincidence? Maya stared at the message, a cold certainty settling in her stomach. Alexander Reed had built a tech empire by connecting dots faster than his competitors. She'd just given him the first critical dots of a pattern he wouldn't stop pursuing until he saw the complete picture. The countdown had begun, 6 years earlier. I think you're missing the point of the sustainability matrix, Maya said, leaning across the conference table scattered with reports and empty takeout containers. After midnight, they were the only ones remaining in the office, the San Francisco skyline glittering beyond the windows. Alexander looked up from his laptop, exhaustion visible in the shadows beneath his eyes. The point is demonstrating environmental commitment while maintaining profitability. No, Maya countered, sliding her tablet toward him. Look at these projections again. This isn't about appearing environmentally conscious. It's about fundamentally reimagining how technology companies operate within ecological systems. Alexander studied the screen, the blue light reflecting in his eyes. He'd removed his tie hours ago, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms tanned from weekend sailing, a detail Maya was trying very hard not to notice. You're proposing we invest nearly 30% of our R&D budget in unproven green technologies, he said finally. I'm proposing we become the company that proves them. Maya's voice softened with passionate conviction. 5 years from now, every tech firm will be scrambling to adopt these practices. Quantum could lead that transformation instead of following it. Alexander studied her with unexpected intensity. You really believe in this? I wouldn't waste your time if I didn't. A smile tugged at his mouth. You've never struck me as someone who wastes anything, Maya Johnson, least of all opportunity. The comment carried a weight beyond professional observation. For weeks they'd maintained a careful distance despite the obvious chemistry that sparked during meetings and casual encounters. Maya had firmly categorized him as off-limits, her boss, recently divorced, with a reputation for ruthless business decisions. Some opportunities come with complications, she replied carefully. Most worthwhile ones do. Alexander closed his laptop, his full attention now focused on her. Like this sustainability initiative, risky, potentially revolutionary, certain to face resistance. Are we still talking about the project? Maya asked, holding his gaze. I think we both know we're not. The silence between them hummed with possibility. Maya should have gathered her things, cited an early meeting, maintained the professional boundary she'd been so careful to preserve. Instead, she said, "We'd be risking a lot." Yes. His voice had deepened slightly. Is it worth exploring? Maya considered her answer carefully. I believe in calculated risks when the potential return justifies them. Alexander's laugh was unexpectedly warm. Always the analyst, even now. Some habits are hard to break, and some rules are worth breaking. He reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of hers. I've never been good at ignoring potential. Maya looked at the space between their hands, small enough to cross in a moment, vast enough to change everything. Neither have I. She closed the distance, her fingers meeting his. Present day. The emergency alert punctured Maya's concentration at 6:17 p.m., her phone and email simultaneously erupting with notifications. A critical security vulnerability had been discovered in Quantum's flagship product, potentially exposing millions of users' data. By 7:30, the crisis team had assembled in the main conference room. Engineers connected remotely from various time zones, their concerned faces populating screens around the room. Maya arrived to find Alexander already orchestrating response efforts, his jacket discarded, focus absolute as he directed teams. Situation? She asked, joining him at the central table. Alexander didn't look up from the security reports. Zero-day exploit in the authentication protocol. Potentially affects all Enterprise Suite users. No confirmation of actual breaches yet, but the vulnerability is significant. How long to patch? Development team estimates 4 hours minimum. Then we need to push the update to all client systems. Maya assessed the room, noting the tension radiating from the assembled executives. Have we notified clients? Not yet, Alexander replied. Patterson wants to wait until we have the patch ready. James Patterson, Quantum's legal counsel, nodded. Premature notification could cause panic and potentially attract malicious actors to exploit the vulnerability before we close it. Maya shook her head. Unacceptable. Our enterprise clients include healthcare systems and financial institutions. They need to activate their security protocols immediately, not when we've decided it's convenient. With respect, Ms. Johnson, Patterson began, standard procedure in these situations. isn't adequate when lives and financial security could be at risk, Maya finished firmly. Draft the notification. Clear, factual, with concrete steps clients can take while waiting for our patch. I want it out within the hour. Alexander observed the exchange with an unreadable expression. After Patterson departed, he said quietly, "The board president stepping into operational decisions. Interesting approach. The board president ensuring Quantum doesn't hide critical information from clients who trust us," Maya corrected. "Unless you disagree?" Alexander studied her for a moment. "Actually, I don't. Patterson's cautious by nature. Sometimes that's valuable, sometimes not." He handed her a tablet displaying technical specifications. "I'll need your sign-off on the emergency protocol overrides." For the next several hours, they worked in unexpected synchronicity, their past history temporarily subsumed by the crisis at hand. Maya found herself slipping into familiar patterns, Alexander handling external communications while she coordinated internal resources, completing each other's sentences during briefings, anticipating needs before they arose. By 11 p.m., the development team had created a viable patch, and the initial deployment was underway. The crisis room had emptied except for Maya and Alexander, both reviewing final reports before the all-clear could be issued. "The client notification was the right call," Alexander said, breaking a comfortable silence. "We've received appreciation messages from several major accounts." Maya looked up from her screen. Sometimes transparency is the only option, even when it's uncomfortable. Something shifted in Alexander's expression. "I've been thinking about transparency lately, about past decisions made without full consideration of long-term consequences." The atmosphere in the room changed, professional focus giving way to personal undercurrents. Maya felt herself teetering on the edge of a conversation she wasn't ready to have. "Alexander, you've changed," he interrupted softly. "Not just the hair or the power suits. There's something different, more certain." "Motherhood changes people," Maya replied carefully. "Clarifies priorities." Alexander set down his tablet. "I'd like to hear about them sometime. Your children." Before Maya could respond, her phone rang. Diane's ringtone. She answered immediately, tension evident in her voice. "Mom? Is everything okay?" Alexander watched as Maya's entire demeanor transformed, professional coolness melting into maternal concern. "It's okay, baby," she said softly, voice gentle in a way Alexander had never heard. "Mommy's here, just on the phone, but I'm listening. Yes, sweetie, even the biggest dinosaurs got scared sometimes. I know it seemed real, but dreams can't hurt you." She glanced up, meeting Alexander's intent gaze, suddenly conscious of his scrutiny. "I'll be home soon, Noah. Try to go back to sleep for Grandma. I love you too, more than all the stars." Maya ended the call, composing herself before offering a brief explanation. "Nightmare. He's been having them about dinosaurs since we visited the Natural History Museum." "Noah," Alexander said, the name hanging between them. "That's a strong name." "He's a strong boy." Maya began gathering her things. "The patch deployment is on track. I should get home." Alexander nodded, still watching her with that penetrating gaze that had always made her feel transparent. Of course, children need their mother. Something in his tone made Maya pause. Yes, they do. And sometimes, that's all they have. The words landed precisely as intended. Alexander's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "Maya," he began, stepping toward her. "About what you said the other day." "It's late," she interrupted, "and we both have an 8 a.m. briefing tomorrow. Whatever it is can wait." As she left, Maya felt Alexander's eyes following her, calculating, connecting pieces of a puzzle she had hoped would remain fragmented just a little longer. Alexander Reed didn't believe in coincidences. Patterns, yes. Strategic moves, absolutely. But random alignment of significant events? Never. "What exactly are you asking, Alex?" Marcus Chen leaned back in his chair, watching his friend with the careful observation developed over 20 years of friendship. Alexander swirled the scotch in his glass, the amber liquid catching the light in his downtown apartment. Information about Maya Johnson's personal life? The same Maya Johnson who's now effectively your boss? Marcus raised an eyebrow. The one you haven't mentioned by name in 5 years, despite my knowing exactly what happened between you? She has children, Alexander said, ignoring the pointed comment. Triplets. Marcus's expression remained carefully neutral. And this interests you because the timing is relevant. To what, exactly? Alexander set down his glass. You know to what? A heavy silence settled between them. Marcus sighed, removing his glasses to polish them meticulously with his handkerchief, a habit that had always signaled his discomfort. When Gabriela Santos joined HR 3 years ago, Marcus said finally, there was talk about her connection to Maya. Apparently they're close friends. Gabriela occasionally mentions Maya's children in passing. What kind of mentions? School activities, birthday parties, normal parent things. Marcus replaced his glasses. I believe they're 5 years old. Alexander's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Names? Alex. Their names, Marcus. I think the boy is Noah. The girls, I don't recall. Is this really necessary? Alexander didn't answer directly. Have you seen pictures? Number. And I wouldn't tell you if I had. Marcus leaned forward. Whatever you're thinking about doing, consider the consequences. Maya isn't some corporate rival you can outmaneuver. There are children involved. I'm well aware, Alexander replied, voice suddenly distant. More aware than you might think. Maya's morning had been precisely scheduled. Executive briefing at 8, investor call at 9:30, strategy session at 11. Nowhere in that schedule had she anticipated the call from Westlake Elementary at 10:17. Ms. Johnson? This is Nurse Ramirez. There's been an incident with Olivia. 20 minutes later, Maya rushed into the school's front office to find Olivia sitting with an ice pack against her forehead, eyes puffy from crying. Sophia and Noah flanked her protectively. What happened? Maya knelt before her daughter, gently examining the purpling bruise. Jungle gym accident, the nurse explained. No concussion, but quite a bump. School policy requires she go home for observation. Maya looked at her watch, mentally calculating. Diane was at a medical appointment, Gabriela in Los Angeles for a conference. The strategy session couldn't be rescheduled. 2 board members had flown in specifically for it. All 3 need to be signed out together, the nurse added apologetically. Siblings policy. 40 minutes later, Maya ushered the triplets through Quantum's imposing lobby, drawing curious glances from security personnel unaccustomed to seeing small children in the corporate headquarters. Remember what we discussed, Maya said quietly as they waited for the elevator. This is Mommy's important workplace. Indoor voices, best behavior. Like library rules, Noah confirmed solemnly. Exactly. Maya smoothed his wayward cowlick. We'll sit quietly in my office during the meeting and then Grandma will pick you up. Will we meet the people from your stories? Sophia asked, eyes bright with curiosity. Maya tensed. What stories, sweetie? The ones about the dragon who turned into a prince but then turned back into a dragon, Olivia supplied, ice pack still held against her forehead. Maya silently cursed her mother's metaphorical bedtime stories. Those are just make-believe, remember? Like your fairy tales. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. As the doors opened, Maya's carefully constructed worlds collided spectacularly. Alexander Reed stood inside, engaged with his tablet. He looked up, registering Maya first, then the 3 small children accompanying her. His expression shifted from surprise to intense focus in an instant. Ms. Johnson, he acknowledged, gaze moving deliberately to the children. I wasn't aware it was bring your family to work day. School emergency, Maya replied tersely, ushering the triplets into the elevator. Mr. Reed, These are my children. They'll be in my office briefly until my mother can collect them." Alexander nodded politely to the children. "Hello there." Sophia, ever the leader, stepped forward with extended hand. "I'm Sophia Johnson. These are my brother and sister Noah and Olivia." Olivia hit her head on the jungle gym. "Are you Mommy's boss?" Alexander accepted the small hand, something flickering behind his eyes at the confident gesture. "Not exactly. Your mother and I work together." "You have a really big building," Noah observed, blue eyes, so like Alexander's own, taking in every detail of the elevator's polished interior. "Thank you. I designed parts of it myself." Noah's expression brightened with interest. "Really? Did you know elevators use counterweights and potential energy conversion to operate efficiently?" Alexander's eyebrows rose slightly. "I did know that. That's impressive knowledge for someone your age." "Noah knows everything about how things work," Olivia said, lowering her ice pack to reveal the bruise on her forehead. "I know about animals and art. Sophia knows about people." "A well-rounded team," Alexander commented, his gaze lingering on each child with uncomfortable intensity. Maya pressed the button for her floor repeatedly, willing the elevator to move faster. "Your eyes are just like ours," Sophia announced suddenly, studying Alexander's face. "Mommy says our blue eyes come from—" "Look, we're almost there," Maya interrupted hastily. "Remember, indoor voices when we reach Mommy's office." But Alexander had already knelt to Sophia's level, his entire focus on the child. "What does your mother say about your eyes?" Sophia smiled proudly. "That they're special because they're so blue. Most people with our skin have brown eyes like Mommy, but we got blue from—" She trailed off, looking uncertainly at her mother. "From genetics," Maya finished, placing a protective hand on Sophia's shoulder. "A recessive trait." "Fascinating how genetics work," Alexander said, rising slowly as the elevator reached their floor. "The passing of traits from parents to children. Some obvious, some hidden until the right circumstances reveal them." The doors opened and Maya quickly guided the children out. "We need to go. The strategy session starts in 15 minutes. "Of course." Alexander remained in the elevator, but his eyes never left the children. "It was very interesting meeting you all. I hope we'll have the chance to talk again soon." As the doors closed, Maya caught his expression, calculating, curious, with the dawning recognition she had dreaded for 5 years. "I like him," Noah declared as they walked toward Maya's office. "He looks like he knows important things." "Is he the dragon from Grandma's stories?" Olivia whispered, eyes wide. "No, sweetheart," Maya answered, her heart racing, "but he might be just as dangerous." That evening, Alexander sat alone in his office, multiple browser tabs open on his computer. One displayed Quantum's company calendar with Maya's maternity leave conspicuously absent from 5 years prior. She'd been terminated weeks before it would have been filed. Another showed a rough calculation of dates. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Whatever you're thinking, proceed carefully. Some questions can't be unasked." Alexander closed the calculator application that confirmed what he already knew. Exactly 5 years and 9 months had passed since Maya Johnson had walked out of his office, carrying what he now suspected was far more than just her personal belongings. He opened his contact list, hovering over his lawyer's number before setting the phone down. This wasn't a legal matter. Not yet. This was something far more personal. Maya knew the confrontation was coming. Alexander's sudden interest in her children, the calculating look in his eyes when he'd seen them in the elevator, the quiet inquiries to HR that Gabriella had warned her about, all pointed to an inevitable collision. Still, she hadn't expected him at her door at 7:30 a.m., before her assistant or most of the executive floor had arrived. "We need to talk," Alexander said, the carefully neutral tone belied by the intensity in his eyes. "Privately." Maya considered refusing, but prolonging the inevitable would only increase the risk of a public scene. "Fine, 10 minutes. She led him into her office, closing the door before taking her position behind the desk. a deliberate choice to maintain the physical barrier between them. Alexander remained standing, unusual tension evident in his typically controlled posture. "I met your children yesterday." "Yes," Maya replied evenly. "A chance encounter I would have preferred to avoid." "I'm sure you would have." His voice hardened slightly. 5 years of careful avoidance, in fact. Maya folded her hands on the desk. "If you have something to say, Alexander, say it directly. We both have full schedules today." 5 years and 9 months. The words hung in the air between them. Maya didn't respond, her expression carefully composed. "That's how long it's been since you left Quantum," Alexander continued. "Since I made the biggest mistake of my professional career by letting you go. And approximately 5 years and 3 months since your children were born, if my calculations are correct." "Your point?" Maya asked, though they both knew exactly what his point was. Alexander placed both hands on her desk, leaning forward. "They have my eyes, Maya. Not just the color. Noah has my exact expressions. Sophia has my mother's chin. And Olivia—" He paused, something flickering across his features. "Olivia tilts her head exactly the way my sister does when she's curious." Maya maintained her composure, though her heart hammered against her ribs. "Genetic coincidences happen." "Don't!" Alexander's voice sharpened. "Don't insult both of us with obvious lies. Those children are mine." The word, "mine," sent a surge of protective anger through Maya. "No, Alexander. They're mine. I carried them. I raised them. I was there for every fever, every nightmare, every milestone while you were busy running your company and dating socialites." Alexander straightened, something raw breaking through his executive facade. "Because I didn't know they existed. You made that choice for me. For us." "There was no us the moment you called security to escort me from the building," Maya countered, rising from her chair. "You made that abundantly clear. I made a business decision about our relationship, about my pregnancy, about our future." Maya's carefully controlled voice trembled slightly. "You categorized everything we shared as a liability to be eliminated." Alexander ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of genuine distress. "I was wrong. I handled it terribly. But you denied me the knowledge that I have children in this world." "The knowledge?" Maya gave a bitter laugh. "What would you have done with this knowledge, Alexander? Sent a check each month? Scheduled quarterly visits between board meetings? Children aren't acquisitions you can manage from a distance." "You never gave me the chance to figure that out," he shot back. "You made assumptions about what kind of father I would be." "I made observations about what kind of man you were," Maya corrected. "The kind who discards people when they become inconvenient." Alexander fell silent, the truth of her words visibly landing. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its defensive edge. "I deserved that, but they didn't deserve to grow up without a father." The shift in his approach, from accusation to concern for the children, momentarily disarmed her. Maya sank back into her chair, suddenly exhausted by the weight of the secret she'd carried for so long. "What do you want, Alexander?" "To know them," he answered without hesitation. "To be part of their lives." "Why?" Maya challenged. "Because they're genetically connected to you? Because your ego can't handle not being in control of something that's yours?" "Because they're my children," Alexander said simply. "Because I've already missed 5 years that I can never get back. Because—" He paused, vulnerability showing through the cracks in his armor. "Because when Noah started talking about elevator mechanics, I saw myself at that age. Because Sophia's confidence and Olivia's creativity aren't just traits they inherited. They're people I want to know." Maya studied him, searching for the calculation she'd always associated with his decisions. Instead, she saw something unfamiliar. Alexander Reed without a strategic angle, driven by something other than profit or power. "They don't know about you," she said finally. "They've asked about their father, of course. I've told them he wasn't ready to be a parent." Alexander flinched. "That's the truth. though not the whole truth. What would you have me tell them? That their father fired me when he found out they existed? Tell them I made a terrible mistake, Alexander said quietly. Tell them I didn't know about them until now. Tell them whatever you need to, but please, Maya, give me a chance to know my children. Maya looked away, gazing out at the San Francisco skyline. The city was waking up, unaware of the seismic shift occurring in her carefully constructed life. It's not that simple. It is, Alexander insisted. The circumstances are complicated. The choice is simple. Either I'm part of their lives or I'm not. Maya turned back to him. And what about Quantum? The board? Do you plan to announce your newly discovered paternity to the shareholders? This isn't about business. Everything with you is about business, Maya countered. 5 years ago, our relationship was a liability to be terminated. Now these children are assets you want to claim. Alexander's expression hardened. That's unfair. Is it? You've built your entire identity around this company. Your decisions are calculated to maximize value and minimize risk. Why should I believe this is any different? Because I'm asking, Alexander said, his voice dropping. Not demanding, not maneuvering. Asking you, as their mother, for the chance to know them. The sincerity in his tone gave her pause. For a moment, Maya glimpsed the man she'd fallen in love with years ago, before power dynamics and corporate politics had twisted their relationship beyond recognition. I need time, she said finally. This affects them more than either of us. I won't disrupt their lives on your timetable. Alexander nodded slowly. I understand. But Maya... He moved toward the door, then paused. I'm not the same man who made that decision 5 years ago. People change. Sometimes because they want to, sometimes because life forces them to. After he left, Maya remained at her desk, the weight of the confrontation settling around her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Diane. The kids made you a surprise for when you get home. Noah says it's structurally sound this time. Maya smiled despite herself, then typed a message to Gabriella. He knows. We need to talk. The response came immediately. Your place tonight. Wine required. I still think this is a mistake, Gabriella said, adjusting Maya's collar with the fussy attention of someone avoiding eye contact. You're giving him exactly what he wants. What he wants is a DNA test and joint custody, Maya replied, watching through the window as Diane helped the triplets into their jackets in the living room. This is a controlled meeting in a public place. 2 hours, maximum. Gabriella folded her arms. And what did your lawyer say? That legally I'm on shaky ground if I completely deny him access now that he knows. Maya sighed, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her casual dress, a deliberate departure from her board president wardrobe. But this isn't about legal obligations. It's about what's best for them. And you think meeting a stranger who's suddenly their father is best? He's not a stranger to them anymore. They haven't stopped talking about Mommy's colleague with our eyes since that elevator ride. Maya lowered her voice. Sophia's already piecing it together. She asked me yesterday why Mr. Reed looks like Noah when he's thinking hard. Gabriella's expression softened. Children are smarter than we give them credit for. Exactly. I'd rather control the narrative than have them discover the truth in fragments. And what is the narrative today? Maya watched her children's excited movements as they prepared for their outing. That Mr. Reed is someone important from Mommy's work who wants to get to know them better. That's technically true, Gabriella conceded. The best kind of truth, Maya replied with a grim smile. Partial, but verifiable. Golden Gate Park teemed with weekend activity, joggers navigating paths, families spreading picnic blankets, tourists photographing every flower in the botanical garden. Maya had chosen the location carefully, public enough to keep the interaction casual, spacious enough to allow movement if tensions rose. Alexander was already waiting at the agreed-upon playground, standing slightly apart from the cluster of parents. He'd dressed down in jeans and a casual button-down, an outfit she'd never seen him wear during their relationship. The absence of his usual power suit made him look both more approachable and oddly vulnerable. He spotted them immediately, his attention fixed on the children rather than Maya. Something flashed across his features, wonder, perhaps, or the weight of realization made newly concrete by this deliberate meeting. "Remember what we discussed," Maya said quietly to the triplets as they approached. "Mr. Reed is excited to meet you properly, but if you feel uncomfortable at any time, just come to me." Noah nodded solemnly while Olivia fidgeted with anticipation. Sophia, ever perceptive, studied Alexander with unconcealed curiosity. "Good morning," Alexander greeted them, his usual commanding tone softened to something almost tentative. "Thank you for coming." "We brought a frisbee and a soccer ball," Noah announced, holding up his backpack as evidence. "Excellent planning," Alexander replied with unexpected warmth. "I used to play soccer in college." "Were you good?" Sophia asked directly. "I was determined," Alexander answered after a thoughtful pause. "Not always the same as good." Maya registered the unexpected humility with surprise. The Alexander Reed she knew would never have admitted to anything less than excellence. "I can show you how to throw a frisbee correctly," Noah offered. "Most people do it wrong." "I'd appreciate that," Alexander said seriously. For the next hour, Maya watched from a bench as Alexander navigated his first real interaction with his children. With Noah, he discussed the aerodynamics of frisbees, listening attentively to the boys' detailed explanations. For Olivia, he admired the flower crown she crafted from dandelions, wearing it without self-consciousness when she placed it on his head. With Sophia, he answered her rapid-fire questions about his job, his building, his life, simplifying complex concepts without talking down to her. "He's good with them," Diane observed, joining Maya on the bench. "Not what I expected." "Me neither," Maya admitted reluctantly. When Alexander approached with Sophia riding on his shoulders, Olivia skipping beside him and Noah carrying the soccer ball, Maya tensed slightly. "Sophia has requested ice cream," Alexander announced. "I told her that was your decision." "Please, Mommy," Sophia called from her perch. "Mr. Reed says there's a place with 28 flavors." 29, Noah corrected. "I counted on the sign when we arrived." Maya hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but just one scoop each." As Diane led the children toward the ice cream stand, Alexander took the space beside Maya, maintaining a respectful distance. "They're extraordinary," he said quietly. "Yes, they are. Noah has a mind like a steel trap. Olivia sees beauty in everything. And Sophia?" He shook his head in wonder. "She doesn't miss a thing." "No, she doesn't," Maya agreed, "which is why she just asked me if you're her father." Alexander's head snapped toward her. "What did you tell her?" "That we would talk about grown-up things later." Maya met his gaze directly. "She deserves the truth, but on my terms, when I decide they're ready." Alexander nodded slowly. "I understand." "Do you?" "Because once they know, everything changes. For them, for me, for you." "I want those changes," Alexander said with surprising conviction, "even the difficult ones." Maya studied him skeptically. "Parenthood isn't a quarterly project you can delegate or abandon if it doesn't meet expectations. It's forever, Alexander. Messy, inconvenient, demanding." "Like most things worth having," he replied. After a pause, he added, "I've never been a father before, Maya. I'll make mistakes, but I want to try. They deserve that chance, even if I don't." The humility in his tone, so foreign to the Alexander she'd known, gave her pause. "If we do this," Maya said carefully, "there will be boundaries, clear, non-negotiable boundaries. Name them. We move at their pace, not yours. No overnight visits until they're completely comfortable. No lavish gifts trying to buy their affection. No undermining my parenting decisions." She took a breath. "And no legal maneuvers behind my back." "Agreed," Alexander said without hesitation. I'd like to suggest one thing, though. Maya tensed. What? Regular schedule. Children thrive on consistency. He glanced toward the ice cream stand where the triplets were debating flavors. Maybe Saturday mornings? Unless you already have activities then. The reasonable suggestion, focused on the children's needs rather than his convenience, surprised her. Saturday mornings are currently open, she conceded. Thank you. The simple gratitude, devoid of strategic calculation, seemed genuine. I know this isn't easy for you. Maya watched as Olivia carefully carried an ice cream cone back toward them, concentration evident in every step. It's not about easy, she said finally. It's about right. They've asked about their father their whole lives. I've always told them that someday they might meet you. I just never expected someday to arrive quite like this. Life rarely follows the plans we make, Alexander observed, rising as the children approached, even for people like us who specialize in planning. As Olivia proudly presented Alexander with the ice cream she'd selected especially for him, blue raspberry, because it matches our eyes, Maya glimpsed something she'd never seen before. Alexander Reed, completely unguarded, momentarily transformed by the simple, profound gift of connection. Tech power couple's secret love child, make that 3. The headline screamed from Maya's tablet, accompanied by photos. Alexander and Maya entering the quantum building separately, the triplets in the park with both adults, a 5-year-old security image of Maya leaving Quantum's headquarters in tears. How? Maya demanded, pacing her office while Gabriella and Marcus watched with matching expressions of concern. The park was public, but those angles, someone was specifically photographing us. The better question is who, Marcus said, scrolling through similar headlines on his phone. This isn't random paparazzi. This is targeted corporate sabotage. Maya's phone buzzed with an incoming call from Walter Simmons. She showed the screen to the others before answering. Walter, I can explain. Emergency board meeting. 1 hour, Walter interrupted, his normally genial voice clipped. Both you and Reed need to be there. The call ended abruptly. This is my fault, Gabriella said, distress evident in her voice. I told you that Parker in legal was asking too many questions about Alexander's schedule. It's not your fault, Maya assured her. This was inevitable from the moment Alexander figured it out. Her phone buzzed again with a text from Diane. News vans outside the apartment, taking kids to my place. Don't worry, Maya texted back quickly. Perfect. Keep them away from news internet. We'll explain later. Marcus cleared his throat. Alex is requesting you join him in the conference room. Says he has a strategy. Of course he does, Maya replied, gathering her tablet. Crisis management is his specialty. Alexander was surrounded by displays when Maya entered. Stock tickers showing Quantum's already falling share price, social media monitoring dashboards, and multiple news reports covering the story. We have 23 minutes before the vultures formally convene, he said without preamble. The board will demand one of 2 outcomes, your resignation or mine. Most likely mine, Maya observed coolly. The woman is always blamed in these scenarios. Not this time. Alexander's voice carried unusual determination. I've drafted a joint statement taking full responsibility for the relationship and its poor handling. It emphasizes that our personal history has no bearing on corporate governance. Except it absolutely does, Maya countered. The board isn't concerned about morality. They're concerned about conflict of interest, appearance of nepotism, and potential litigation. Precisely why we need to reframe the narrative. Alexander pulled up a document on the main screen. This is our counteroffensive. Maya scanned the proposal, eyebrows rising. You want to recuse yourself from all personnel decisions related to my position? And you would do the same regarding my executive reviews? Alexander confirmed. Additionally, we establish an independent committee to evaluate any decisions where our departments intersect. This is surprisingly thorough. I've had 5 years to consider worst-case scenarios. Alexander admitted. This particular one has occupied considerable mental real estate lately. Maya studied him, noting the subtle signs of strain beneath his composed exterior, the tightness around his eyes, the too perfect knot in his tie. "There's a missing piece," she said, moving to the keyboard. "The children." She began typing rapidly, adding a section to the document. "We need to address this directly. Acknowledge that yes, they're yours, and yes, we're establishing appropriate co-parenting while maintaining professional boundaries." Alexander read over her shoulder, nodding slowly. "Direct and transparent. Good approach." "Transparency is our only option now," Maya agreed. "But there's a larger issue. Someone orchestrated this leak specifically to damage us both. We need to identify the source." "I have my suspicions," Alexander said, bringing up the board roster. "Harrington has opposed both your appointment and my sustainability initiatives. His venture firm would benefit substantially if Quantum's stock drops enough to trigger acquisition talks." Maya considered this, then shook her head. "It's not Harrington. He's too obvious, and he lacks the operational knowledge to access those security archives." She pointed to another name. "Davidson. He voted for my appointment publicly but argued against it in private. He's been quietly consolidating allies on the board." Alexander's expression shifted with dawning recognition. "Davidson's sister-in-law works for the PR firm that handled my divorce. She would have recognized you from that period. And have access to contacts at exactly the kind of tabloids that broke this story," Maya finished. "We need to be prepared for him to lead the charge against us." They worked in surprising synchronicity for the next 15 minutes, Maya drafting language for the ethics committee while Alexander assembled financial projections showing the company's stability regardless of leadership changes. "We make a good team," Alexander observed quietly as they finalized the presentation. "Always did." Maya paused in her typing. "Professionally, yes." "Maya," Alexander began, then stopped as his phone chimed with a message. His expression softened momentarily. "The nanny sent a photo of the triplets at the Science Museum last weekend." He hesitated, then turned the phone toward her, showing a picture of Noah intently examining a dinosaur skeleton, Sophia explaining something to a museum guide, and Olivia creating a colorful drawing of the exhibit. Despite the crisis surrounding them, Maya smiled. Olivia insisted on bringing her art supplies, said the dinosaurs needed to be more colorful. "She was right," Alexander said, an unexpected gentleness in his voice. "I've been meaning to ask, who named them?" "I did," Maya replied, though Noah was almost Alexander. The admission hung between them, a glimpse of what might have been in another timeline, another story. Alexander cleared his throat. "We should head to the boardroom. They'll be gathering." As they walked through the executive corridor, employees quickly averted their gazes, whispers following in their wake. "Remind you of high school?" Maya asked dryly. "I was too busy planning my first startup to notice high school drama," Alexander replied. "Of course you were." They reached the boardroom doors where Walter waited, his expression grave. "This is unprecedented," he said quietly. "The board is divided. Some are calling for immediate leadership changes." "We're prepared to address their concerns," Maya assured him. Walter studied them both. "You know they'll ask personal questions, inappropriate ones." "Let them," Alexander said with surprising steel in his voice. "I've made many mistakes in my life, Walter. How I handled things with Maya ranks at the top. But those children? They're not a mistake, and I won't allow anyone to characterize them as such." The unexpected declaration momentarily stunned Maya. Before she could respond, the boardroom doors opened, revealing 12 tense faces awaiting explanation. Alexander turned to her, professional mask firmly in place but something different in his eyes. "Ready?" Maya straightened her shoulders, the weight of the past 5 years, the hurt, the struggle, the triumph, all converging in this moment of crisis and potential redemption. "Let's show them exactly who they're dealing with," she replied. 3 hours of interrogation by the board had left Maya exhausted but victorious. Their joint strategy had worked. Neither would be forced to resign, at least not immediately. The Ethics Committee proposal had been approved. Davidson's obvious discomfort when Alexander's subtly referenced information leaks had been telling, and Walter's stern reminder about fiduciary duty had ultimately swayed the wavering members. "Congratulations," Marcus said, finding Maya in the empty conference room after the others had departed. "You managed the impossible. You made Alex look humble." Maya managed a tired smile. "Not my primary objective, but I'll take the win." "He's waiting for you on the roof," Marcus added casually. "Said you'd know what that means." She did know. During their relationship, the rooftop garden had been their refuge. The one place in the building without surveillance cameras, where the CEO and his brilliant analyst could speak freely, plan together, occasionally steal moments of connection between meetings. "I have nothing left to say to him today," Maya replied, gathering her notes. "I think you have plenty left to say," Marcus countered gently. "Maybe things you've been holding back for 5 years. Maya glanced at her watch. Nearly 7. Diane had texted that the children were fed and settled for the evening, giving Maya rare breathing room. "Fine," she relented. "But if I'm not back in 30 minutes, send a search party. I might have thrown him off the building." The rooftop garden had expanded since Maya had last seen it, now featuring sustainable irrigation systems and solar collection panels alongside the carefully tended plants. Alexander stood at the far railing, jacket removed, sleeves rolled up, staring out at the twilight skyline. "Marcus said you wanted to see me," Maya announced her presence. Alexander turned, his expression uncharacteristically open. "Thank you for coming. I thought we could use a moment without performance or strategy. Haven't we performed enough for one day?" Maya approached the railing, maintaining distance between them. "The board bought our united front. Crisis averted." "That's not why I asked you here." Alexander gestured to a small table set with 2 glasses and a bottle of sparkling water, her preferred drink during late work sessions years ago. "I wanted to talk. Really talk." "About what? Our brilliant crisis management? The children's visitation schedule? The weather?" "About us," he said simply. "About what happened. About what I did to you." Maya felt something crack in her carefully maintained composure. 5 years too late for that conversation, Alexander. "I know." He made no move to close the distance between them, but I'm asking for it anyway. The city lights began twinkling below as dusk deepened around them. Maya had rehearsed this moment countless times in her mind over the years, what she would say if given the chance, how she would maintain her dignity while delivering perfectly crafted statements of indictment. Yet standing here now, those prepared speeches felt hollow. "Do you know what it was like?" she asked finally, her voice quiet but intense. "To walk out of this building knowing I was carrying your children and that you had discarded me like a defective product? To face pregnancy alone? To explain to my mother why the father of her grandchildren wasn't in the picture?" Alexander didn't defend himself or interrupt. "I was sick every day for 4 months," Maya continued, words flowing now like a dam breaking. "High-risk pregnancy, bed rest for the final trimester. The doctors were concerned about Olivia. She was smaller than the others. I lay there alone, terrified I might lose them, while you were probably in this very building, making million-dollar decisions and dating socialites." "I wasn't dating anyone," Alexander said quietly. "Not successfully anyway. Not for long." "That's what you take from what I just said?" Maya's laugh held no humor. "Your dating life is irrelevant. The point is, you weren't there. Not when they were born 6 weeks early. Not during those endless nights when all 3 were crying and I hadn't slept in days. Not for first words or first steps or first fevers." Alexander's jaw tightened. "You didn't give me the choice." "Because you made your choice abundantly clear," Maya shot back. "You chose Quantum over me, over them, without a second thought. That's not—" He stopped, then nodded slowly. "You're right. That's exactly what I did." The simple admission, devoid of justification, momentarily halted her momentum. "I told myself it was the rational decision," Alexander continued, his voice strained with unfamiliar emotion. "That the company needed my full focus, that a CEO with a scandal and instant family would damage investor confidence, all the logical reasons that let me sleep at night." He looked directly at her. "They were excuses, Maya. Excuses for being a coward." The raw honesty in his voice caught her off guard. This wasn't the calculating CEO she'd prepared to face, but something closer to the man she'd once thought she knew. "I was terrified," he admitted quietly. "Not of parenthood itself, but of failing at it. My father was—" He paused. "Not a man worth emulating. I told myself I was protecting you and the baby from my inevitable inadequacy. In reality, I was protecting myself." "At our expense," Maya said, but the edge had dulled in her voice. "Yes." Alexander moved to the railing beside her, careful to maintain space between them. "I've regretted it every day since. Not just losing you, though that's been—" He stopped, recalibrated. "The moment I saw them in that elevator, when I realized what I'd thrown away, it was like seeing my life through a different lens. Everything I've built, accomplished, acquired, means nothing compared to what I missed." Maya studied his profile in the fading light, the unfamiliar vulnerability in his expression. "Why should I believe you've changed? That this isn't just another calculation?" "You shouldn't," he answered simply. "Not yet. Words are easy, especially for someone who makes his living persuading others." He turned to face her fully. "Judge me by what I do next, by how I show up for them, consistently, whether it's convenient or not, by whether I respect your boundaries without trying to leverage control." The honesty was disarming. Maya felt the anger she'd nursed for years shifting, not disappearing but transforming into something more complex. "They asked about you tonight," she said finally. "Diane texted me. Sophia put it together. Why you look like them. Why you've suddenly appeared in our lives." Alexander's expression tightened with concern. "What did she tell them? The truth, or part of it? That you're their father, that grown-ups sometimes make complicated decisions, and that you want to know them now?" Maya sighed. "They'll have questions, hard ones." "I deserve those questions," Alexander said quietly. "And they deserve honest answers, even the uncomfortable ones." Maya nodded, suddenly exhausted by the emotional weight of the day. "I should go. They'll be waiting for me." As she turned to leave, Alexander spoke again. "Maya." She paused without turning. "Thank you. Not for forgiving me. I haven't earned that. But for the chance to try to be worthy of them. Of the family I almost threw away." Family. The word hung in the air between them. A bridge partially destroyed, yet with foundations that might possibly, someday, be rebuilt. 3 months later, "Daddy! You have to see my science project." Olivia's excited voice echoed through Maya's apartment as Alexander arrived for their Saturday morning ritual. "I made a whole ecosystem in a bottle." The word daddy still created a complex flutter in Maya's chest whenever she heard it. Part wonder, part lingering pain, part cautious acceptance of their new reality. It had taken the children exactly 2 weeks to transition from Mr. Reed to the more intimate title, their capacity for adaptation far outpacing the adults in their lives. An ecosystem? Alexander knelt to examine the jar Olivia thrust toward him, his tailored weekend attire a far cry from the power suits he'd once lived in. "This is remarkable. Tell me how it works." As Olivia launched into a detailed explanation of the water cycle happening inside her creation, Maya observed from the kitchen doorway. 3 months had transformed their awkward coexistence into something resembling functional co-parenting. Alexander had honored every boundary she'd established, never overstepping or using his resources to buy favor. "Mom, Dad's taking us to the planetarium today," Noah announced, emerging from his room with a backpack meticulously packed with notebooks and pencils for recording observations. "I know, sweetie. Remember we talked about indoor voices in the apartment?" "Sorry," Noah stage whispered, then turned to Alexander. "Did you know they have a new exhibit about exoplanets? Planets outside our solar system that might support life?" "I did know that," Alexander replied seriously. "I've arranged for one of the astronomers to give us a special tour of the research facilities afterward." Noah's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? Really? Where's your sister?" "Sophia's still deciding what to wear," Olivia reported, rolling her eyes with the exasperation only a sibling could perfect. "She says planetarium outfits need to be stellar." Alexander's laugh, genuine, unguarded, was a sound Maya was still getting accustomed to. The man who emerged during these family moments bore little resemblance to the calculating CEO she'd known years ago. "Coffee?" Maya offered, gesturing toward the kitchen. Alexander nodded, following her while the children gathered their things. In the relative privacy of the kitchen, his expression shifted to something more serious. "The board approved the restructuring proposal yesterday," he said, accepting the mug she handed him. "Unanimously." Maya leaned against the counter. "Even Davidson?" "Davidson resigned last month, if you recall. His replacement seems more interested in actual governance than power plays." Alexander sipped his coffee. "The ethics committee is working well. Your sustainability framework is being implemented across all divisions." "And the Tokyo expansion?" "On track, with full community impact assessments." Alexander's mouth quirked in a small smile. "Exactly as you originally designed them." The professional update was part of their new routine, a carefully maintained bridge between their parallel roles as co-parents and corporate leaders. The media storm had eventually subsided, replaced by more nuanced coverage of Quantum's innovative management structure and industry-leading ethics protocols. "You're staring," Alexander observed quietly. Maya hadn't realized she'd been studying him. "Just thinking about how much has changed." "Everything has changed," he agreed. "For the better, I hope?" Before she could answer, Sophia bounded into the kitchen, wearing a dress printed with constellations and planets. "Do I look stellar enough for the planetarium?" she asked, twirling to display the full effect. "Absolutely cosmic," Maya assured her, grateful for the interruption. "Dad, will you explain black holes again on the way? Noah says I didn't understand it right." "Of course," Alexander promised. "And maybe both of you are partly right. Science is about different perspectives on the same evidence." Sophia considered this, then nodded seriously. "Like how you and Mom can look at the same business problem differently?" Alexander exchanged a glance with Maya. Exactly like that. After the children had gathered their things and excitement levels had reached near astronomical levels, Maya walked them to the door. "Have them back by 4, please. We're having dinner with my mother tonight." "Of course." Alexander hesitated. Would it be appropriate if I joined you?" Diane mentioned wanting to discuss the children's summer activities last time I saw her. The request, tentative, respectful of boundaries, was typical of their new dynamic. "I'll check with Mom, but I think that would be fine," Maya replied. As Alexander guided the chattering children toward the elevator, Maya found herself smiling despite the complexity of emotions that still surfaced whenever she watched him with their children. "They're finally asleep," Maya announced, joining Alexander on the balcony of her apartment hours later. The dinner with Diane had extended into an evening of board games and bedtime stories, a family tableau Maya couldn't have imagined 3 months earlier. Alexander stood looking out at the city lights, so reminiscent of their rooftop conversation that Maya felt a sense of déjà vu. "Thank you for today," he said without turning, "for letting me be part of this." "You've earned it," Maya acknowledged, joining him at the railing. "You've been consistent, respectful, present. The children adore you." I'm trying to deserve them." Alexander's voice carried the weight of past regret and present determination. "To deserve the second chance you've given me." It wasn't entirely selfless, Maya admitted. They needed their father, not the idea of one, but the reality. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, the night air cool against their skin. "I've been thinking about the future," Alexander said finally, "about what comes next for all of us." Maya tensed slightly. "Alexander, not what you're thinking," he clarified quickly. "I'm not presuming anything about us. I meant practically school choices, living arrangements, how we navigate holidays and milestones." The clarification both relieved and, unexpectedly, disappointed her, a complexity she wasn't ready to examine. "I've been offered the CEO position at Green Tech Innovations," she said instead. "Their headquarters is here in San Francisco." Alexander turned to her, surprise evident in his expression. Congratulations. It's an excellent opportunity." "I haven't accepted yet," Maya continued. "It would mean stepping down from Quantum's board." "You'd be exceptional in that role," Alexander said without hesitation. "Though selfishly, I'd miss your perspective at Quantum." "Would you?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. "Even when I challenge your every decision?" "Especially then." Alexander smiled slightly. "You make me better, Maya, as a leader, as a person." He paused. "As a father." The simple honesty in his voice touched something Maya had carefully guarded since their reunion. "We're never going back to what we were," she said quietly. "I wouldn't want to," Alexander replied, surprising her. "What we had was built on secrecy and power imbalance. The people we were then, they made mistakes neither of us should repeat." "Then what do you want?" The question escaped before she could reconsider it. Alexander turned fully toward her, his expression more open than she'd ever seen it. "I want to be a good father to our children, a supportive co-parent to you. Maybe someday, a friend." He hesitated. "And maybe, if we both decide it's right, something more. But not now. Not until we've built something healthier than what came before." The measured response, thoughtful, patient, without pressure, was so unlike the Alexander who had once calculated every relationship in terms of immediate advantage. "I think I'd like that," Maya admitted. "The friendship part, at least. The rest needs time." "Time is something I'm finally learning to value correctly," Alexander said, "along with many other things I once." If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.